Have you ever felt like a ghost in your own life? I have. Surrounded by the clamor of bustling hardware aisles, the scent of fresh-cut lumber mingling with paint fumes, I was a juggler of tasks, a master of none. There I was in a sea of faucets and tools, building dreams on a shoestring budget of $10 an hour. Yet, it was a time of promise, of potential, until ambition's shadow emerged, Devon. His presence was a cold wind through our fledgling renovation project, cutting corners where precision was our lifeline. But sometimes, the smallest whispers can unleash the storm. And in that gray world, beneath fluorescent lights, I found my voice, and things changed. As I walked along the winding path that led through the dense forest, a cool breeze rustled the leaves, whispering secrets only the trees seemed to understand. Sunlight filtered through the canopy, creating a dance of light and shadow on the ground. I could hear the chirping of distant birds and an occasional rustle that suggested unseen creatures moving about. It was a typical morning for me, or so I thought. My sense of adventure had brought me here, and with every step I was filled with a mixture of excitement and curiosity. The forest was vast and ancient, its towering trees standing as sentinels guarding mysteries untold. I felt a strange sense of peace and solitude, yet an underlying anticipation lingered in the air. Something about this particular walk felt different, as if the day held a secret it was eager to reveal to me. As I ventured deeper into the forest, the path became less defined. The crunch of leaves under my feet was the only sound breaking the heavy silence that engulfed the deeper woods. The colors of the forest were vibrant, the rich greens contrasting with the occasional burst of colored wildflowers sprouting defiantly along the path. I couldn't shake the feeling that the woods were alive, watching me, evaluating my every move. Suddenly, the path opened up to a small clearing bathed in sunlight. In the center stood an old, gnarled tree, with branches stretching out like welcoming arms. There was something different about this clearing. The air was thicker, and I could feel a tingling at the edge of my senses, like the whisper of a secret that the forest had been holding onto for centuries. I paused for a moment, trying to listen beyond the silence. Just as I was about to turn back, something caught the corner of my eye, a faint glimmer, almost imperceptible against the leafy backdrop. Curiosity piqued, I turned towards the glimmer, my heart pounding with excitement and a hint of fear. Parting the bushes, I found a small object. It was partially buried, as if nature sought to reclaim it. I brushed away the leaves and dirt, revealing an intricately carved locket, aged and tarnished by time. My breath caught in my throat. What was this, and why was it here? Holding the locket in my hand, I felt its surface warm to the touch, a pulse of energy flowing through me. It was as if the locket held stories, memories, emotions from lifetimes past. I hesitated to open it, conflicted by a sense of awe and an underlying trepidation. But the decision wasn't mine to make alone. The forest had chosen me as its confidant, its keeper of secrets. Gently, I pried open the locket, and inside, to my surprise, was a faded photograph of a young couple, their expressions a mixture of joy and innocence. Who were they, I wondered, and what stories were they a part of? I felt an inexplicable connection to them, my mind racing with questions. But I had no idea what was coming next. Just then, a sudden rustle behind me caught my attention, pulling me back to the present. My heart skipped a beat, and I turned around cautiously. Behind me caught my attention, pulling me back to the present. My heart skipped a beat, and I turned around cautiously. There, standing at the edge of the clearing, was an elderly woman, her presence both serene and commanding. Her eyes were wise, filled with an understanding that seemed to reach into the depths of my soul. She smiled, a gesture rich with warmth and familiarity, as if she'd been expecting me. "You found it," she said softly, her voice like an ancient melody. My thoughts were a chaotic swirl. How did she know? What could she tell me about the couple in the photo, about the locket, about what it all meant? The air was heavy with anticipation as I stood there, holding the locket, and meeting the eyes of the woman whose presence heralded answers, even more questions, and a journey I hadn't anticipated. In that clearing, amidst the whispers of the forest, my adventure was just beginning. Reflecting on how far I've come, every misstep was a lesson on its own. Life's twists have taught me resilience, never letting uncertainties deter me from seeking my path. I've realized that embracing the unknown can lead to unexpectedly beautiful destinations. And now, standing at the crossroads once more, I know that every journey, no matter how winding, brings me closer to understanding who I really am. The summer sun was scorching, and the promise of a camp job shimmered like a mirage on the horizon. The interview was strange, a peculiar call that stretched into hours, probing questions that made the hairs on my neck stand up. She was my soon-to-be boss, a tempest cloaked in authority. The camp was chaos embodied. Children without name tags, supplies barely enough to amuse a handful, let alone a brigade. And then, the tirades, unpredictable, unnerving. I watched her unravel, her voice slicing through the air, leaving kids shaken, crumbling like sandcastles. But then, a turning tide. Anger, a simmering resolve. In 9 days I was thrust into a storm, but little did I know, this was just the beginning. I stood at the edge of the old wooden dock, the gentle whispers of the lake lapping at the posts beneath me. It was a brisk autumn afternoon, the sun casting its golden farewell on the horizon, painting the sky with hues of orange and pink. My breath hung in the air, a visible reminder of the chill that pricked my skin. I was alone, or so I thought, lost in the hypnotic dance of the ripples stretching into infinity. But the quietude was deceptive, and I was about to find out just how deceptive it could be. I could feel the texture of the worn wood beneath my fingertips as I leaned over the dock, squinting to catch a glimpse of any movement below the surface. The lake had always been a place of solace for me, a refuge from the chaos of everyday life. But that evening, there was an unusual tension in the air, an unshakable feeling that something was about to change, and not necessarily for the better. Just as I took a step back, the hair on my arms stood on end. It felt like the lake was holding its breath, waiting. My heart drummed louder, a persistent reminder of my growing unease. I reassured myself that everything was fine, that this was just a product of my overactive imagination. But deep down, a nagging voice whispered, "What if it's more than that?" Suddenly, a rustle from the nearby forest shattered the eerie stillness. I spun around, the weight of my anxiety now amplified. The trees stood as silent sentinels, their leaves whispering secrets to the wind. Out from the shadows emerged a figure, its movements gentle but deliberate. My heart skipped a beat as I tried to make sense of what I was seeing. The figure came closer, and realization crept in with a slow, chilling clarity. It was someone I knew, their face a familiar contour against the dusk. Relief washed over me, but it was short-lived. There was something in their eyes, a flicker of hesitation that sent my thoughts spiraling again. What were they doing out here at this hour? And why hadn't they said anything yet? They approached slowly, each crunch of leaves underfoot a reminder of their physical presence. But their silence was deafening. When they spoke, their voice was barely above a whisper. "I've been looking for you." A simple remark, but loaded with an unfathomable weight. My instincts screamed for me to break the silence, to ask the hundreds of questions racing through my mind. But I stood there, caught between the thrill of curiosity and the chill of apprehension. What came next was beyond anything I could have imagined. The figure's expression shifted, shadows playing across their face, masking it with an aura of mystery. The world felt as though it stood still, waiting for the next act in a play I had unwittingly become a part of. And as the evening wind ushered in a new, colder front, I knew this encounter was merely the beginning of something much larger than myself, something I was yet to understand. I knew this encounter was merely the beginning of something much larger than myself, something I was yet to understand. As I look back on that chapter of my life, I realize how profoundly such seemingly small moments have the power to shift the course of our journey. Each choice we make reverberates through time, shaping not only our path, but the myriad of connections we create along the way. I learned that it's not just the grand gestures, but the quiet instants of courage and understanding that define who we become.